Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. What's up, brother?
Oh man, you caught me. Uh, there's all kinds of deleterious. It's a tale as old as time. There is nothing that angers me more. I shouldn't say that. In the world of investing, there are very few things that anger me more than incompetent, fearful management that ruin a once great company because they're chicken blanks and they're more afraid of which they should be, because usually the people that get handed a great company had absolutely nothing to do with building it. But, just it was Apple in particular. It is amazing to me how pathetic their technology has become, how far they have fallen behind. I mean, remember when the iPhone came out? Man, it was amazing, right? Like,
Yeah, revolutionized things.
hey, we've never seen anything like it. You can go buy third-run Chinese-made phones that can outfunction this garbage that Apple puts in our hands, that has the same spell checking capability, that can't learn, that it had in 2008, that they charge an extra $800 to put another camera on there that nobody uses. The cameras are tapped out now. And looking, and all I see are their phones lasting not as long. So remember, it used to be, we'll never do planned obsolescence. Okay, why is it now? Remember back in the day, you could have an iPhone that was 5, 6, 7 years old and it worked fine.
Yep.
Just you get the updates, it just goes. These things now, you get 2 or 3 updates in, 1.5, 2 years in, they just quit working. They quit functioning as well. If you don't use, like if you're just a texter and a caller, you probably don't notice. But, for me, it's like a miniature laptop. Anyway, it's another formerly great American institution. And guys, if you own a bunch of the stock, don't. This is a company that's peaked, and you're paying more for their stock than you ever have. And they're putting up by far the worst financial results they have at any time in the last 25 years. This company is a shadow of what Steve Jobs wanted it to be. And, if you were looking at the two Americas, I think Apple right now really resembled America prior to this last election. You know what I mean? Just going down the slow slope. Look at all their tech. When did Apple start spending more money and innovation thought on coercing you and trapping your stuff so you can't leave their platform, as opposed to actually making a phone that has functionality that is at least on par with their Chinese competitors? You see their iPhone sales in China were down 11% quarter over quarter last year, or last quarter.
You and I were talking about it really quickly before this. They've captured their audience, and then they don't want to let them go anywhere. They're not open to anything outside of, you work with our stuff only. Don't touch don't even think about doing anything else. And so you are captive to whatever they can come up with. If anybody else has got a brilliant idea, good luck.
Well, and the thing I'm sorry, I've had my doubts about Tim Cook from the very beginning, because he always reminded me of your classic CPA. I didn't see an ounce of imagination in the guy. And look, it shocks me that Jobs he hasn't innovated anything.
No.
Nothing. The last 12 years, what are they giving you? AirPods.
Yeah.
Okay.
His goal was not to break. It was never to innovate.
Well, and boy, so you can say he accomplished that. He has not innovated anything. And just roll. And, the other things they've tried to do, like that VR headset, as a guy that's inside, I'm on the board of a company that did audio for the Facebook Oculus headset, still does. That headset they put out was garbage. Yeah. I mean, garbage. For $3,000 per unit, the Oculus kicked it all over the room for $600.
Yeah.
We're talking about Apple.
We have an Oculus. It's awesome. It's fun.
They're awesome. It's better. It's better game playing ability than the $3,000 Apple set.
Yeah,
it is.
It is. I look at that thing, and I look at Apple, and I think, like, okay, they got the new IE16 or whatever. And I'm like, do we really need a new one? I mean, you roll one out every year, and everybody, because some people, you've now gotten to the point where the niche area of which you're focusing is a group of kids that want to buy the name.
Right.
And that's it. They're not interested in, like, does it work right? Does it function? the way that I want it to? Can it do other things?
I actually, what's really interesting here. Now, I haven't heard anything about this, but for the first time in 15 years, and man, I'm probably being influenced by my desire to see this happen. But uh, for the first time since they started the iPhone, I'm looking at Apple going, they're vulnerable. They are absolutely vulnerable.
Oh yeah.
People, the shine is coming off them. People are getting tired of the lack of innovation. People are shocked when you do the whole phone compare game and somebody's got like a new Samsung or whatever. And I'm like, oh yeah, look at the functionality of this. They're blown away. People are still kind of caught up in that fog, if you will, just thinking that Apple's the best thing on the market. It's not even close. It's not
No.
even close. They have fallen so far behind. If you want to know the difference, go to a store and text on a Samsung phone.
Oh God,
Ju-
yeah. I zip around. It's so much fun. I can do
Yeah, you've
anything.
got one. Yeah.
Yeah, and I told my wife, I said, should I get an iPhone, this, that, and the other, because my phone broke. She went to get it for me, and she goes, I looked at the iPhone, the new one, and I said, no, you're not going to like this. This thing can do so much more. And she's like,
Yeah.
now I regret getting mine. And she goes,
Yeah.
not only did I get mine costs way more than yours does.
Yeah. The other thing too, and you made a key one, what used to be a strength of them, just the Apple, ecosystem. Look, I'm not a programmer out there, and I guarantee you got people that are a lot smarter in terms of tech and computers than I am. So I could be off, but it has something I've noticed that increasingly since I've had iPhones, with each update, I feel like their operating system works in a more uh, in uncooperative way with any app that is not Apple.
It's very cumbersome.
It has gotten the apps are freezing constantly. And the reason I know it's not just the app is because on every other device, the same apps work great. We've got Roku streamers on that all around our house. The same apps work great. As a matter of fact, you know what my worst app on my whole Roku is?
What?
Apple TV.
Ah,
It's garbage.
yeah.
It's amazing to watch. And yet it's, Buffett's talked a lot about this. That the minute you see companies play defense and turn management decisions over to accountants, get out. And what did just so people at home know, Buffett has now sold 75 to 80% of his Apple position. And once it made up 40% of his book. I want to say it was the largest position he ever had in his book. Buffett has unloaded almost all of it. I think that tells you what you need to know.
Talking to Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. All right, well, real quick here, we'll talk about let's talk a bit about the DOGE. We're a month in now. All this stuff is happening. Trump seems to be getting things, somewhat through. Everything's going to be decided, of course. You and I both know that along the way. The interesting thing about all of this is watching the resistance, and obviously the Democrats are completely clueless about all of this stuff, which makes me laugh my ass off. You guys are like not reading the room at all. And you're fighting for people that live in D.C. You're not fighting for the American people, and they're not reading any of that room. They're like awful at that. They're talking. I mean, some of this stuff's insane. But we're a month in. How are you feeling? Do you think that this thing's flowing okay? I mean, it's crazy at times. I get it.
Look, I think as it relates to what DOGE is doing, if DOGE was doing a wonderfully effective job, like let's say on a scale of 1 to 10, DOGE was hitting a 10, I would expect to hear a din and outcry similarity. So meaning, I think if you want to know how DOGE is doing, listen to the progressive left.
Yeah.
Right? The harder they scream, the better it's going. Right? The more and more these politicians on both sides of the aisle, not hearing it a lot out of the conservatives, because I think that they know that, if they push against this, they're probably not going to do too well in the next election. But I guarantee it's making politicians on both sides of the aisle uncomfortable. Here's the one thing that I am concerned about, that I really, really hope this administration takes a really hard look at. And I want to make this clear to all your listeners. I am not suggesting the administration is doing something untoward. I certainly hope they are not. But when you are trying to tackle a body like the U.S. government that, in my opinion, is morally bankrupt, And, you know, we all see what's happening with USAID. And I think those of us that are educated on these matters aren't surprised at all.
No,
No, they don't care about you and your money. This is
no.
about power grabs, opportunity, all that kind of stuff, right? But here's the thing. Remember the movie Untouchables? Al
Yep.
Capone, Elliot Ness, all those guys, right? Um, Remember, they were called the Untouchables because they had to recruit guys outside the system because they knew if we're going to go in here and clean up this mess, we must have guys that are beyond reproach, right? White gloves, not a stain on them, because we are tackling something so dirty. If we're not completely cleaned up on our side, we're going to get dirty in the process too, right?
Yeah.
What scares me is when I see how many of these boards that the Trump sons have now been asked to be on after the election. What scares me is I see Melania now accepting a $40 million paycheck for a documentary on Amazon. What scares me is Donald Trump and Melania launching Trump coins and Melania coins. Now, do I personally believe that Trump is trying to bilk the system like the Bidens did? No, I don't. I think when you look at the coins, that was probably the coin lobby that were cheering for him, and you know, the crypto lobby saying, "Hey, help us get more vision and more credibility into the. We want to launch coins for you." And he goes, "Fine, yeah, you know." I don't think now I don't know Trump personally, but I'm just looking at his, you know, the way he's done things, the way he's gone about things. I don't think that's what he's doing. The problem is that we again, they got to be the untouchables, man. They got to be the untouchable. The things that we've got to get done, and I don't know if we're going to get another crack at doing them. We can't let the launch of a Donald Trump coin get in the way. We can't let the tech bros coming in. And you know, I was explaining this to my analyst, actually. He was really concerned about Melania accepting 40 million from Amazon. And I go, listen, man. I don't think they care about $40 million. I don't think that's why he's doing this. These are the tech bros coming in and kissing the ring. And I don't think that's a bad thing. Okay. But we can't, you're in office, man. You can't be accepting 40 million from Amazon to do a documentary while you're in office.
Yeah, there's some stuff I look around and I'm like, ugh, you know, but alas, we're going to find out what this actually looks like because there's a lot of stuff to throw out there, you know, because I have some questions about some of the stuff too, even like yesterday when he was, you know, talking about, you know, Zelensky's the real dictator. And I'm like, ugh, you know, I mean, look, I understand you're playing to a base, and I also understand you're playing to Putin because that's the guy you got to negotiate with. At the same time, that dude's a Stockholm killer. All right, you know, there's a let's be realistic here.
Right. I think I like, yeah, I'm with you. I do not think Zelensky is the heroic good actor he's been played out to be around the world. I think that amazingly, the international media has just whitewashed and some of the horrific, barbaric things the Ukraine government is doing right now.
Yeah.
But on your scale, like you talked about, Zelensky and Putin don't live in the same zip code.
No. I mean, look, Zelensky, like you said, it was the most corrupt country in Europe, and they've cut down a lot of that corruption. That being said, he's heroic for staying. He's led his people through stuff, et cetera. We can go on and on, but he's not clean by any stretch of the imagination. But like you said, they're not even the same. No. One of them is playing single A baseball. The other one is going to the Hall of Fame of friggin', you know, evil.
Yeah, like I think Zelensky is kind of on par with DC evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, he'd be a great senator.
Like the DNC would love them some Zelensky, that's for sure.
Hey, quick, you know what's funny? With Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital, somebody sent me this today and said, hey, they're going to supposedly go to Fort Knox. And they said, ask Zach this. What if they went there and there was no gold? What would happen?
Okay, well, so funny enough, this is the second time I've answered this question today. So I'm sort of hoping that's what happens. Because what would happen now, the only discernible effect that I think you'd see is I think you'd see the price of gold go up a lot.
Yeah.
And here's why it's not that discernible. It really, now, if you're still operating under the guise of like 1965 America, like you think that, you know, that president wouldn't lie to me, right? then that might rock your world, and it should. I mean, it's not going to be a good thing for if they went into Fort Knox, there was nothing there. It's certainly not going to be good for public trust in institutions. But having said that, it would have been a much bigger issue 30 years ago. And why do I say that? If you've got the amount of gold that they've got in Fort Knox, I want to say at current prices, you're probably looking at about $600-700 billion.
Yeah,
worth of gold, something like that. Okay, well, even when gold, think about that. So you should have relatively, I believe, about the same amount of gold in Fort Knox as you did in like 79.
Yeah.
Theoretically, right? Okay, well, in 79, when gold hit $900 an ounce, that would have meant you had probably, let's say it's the same amount as you do today. That would have meant you probably had around $200 billion worth of gold, right? Now, in 79, total U.S. debt was probably less than $500 billion. Okay? So when you got $200 billion sitting there of gold in a vault, that is a big deal. And if all of a sudden that gold goes missing, I mean, I think you'd see treasury yields fly up. I think you'd see the dollar get crushed. But when you've got $37 trillion in debt and you're tacking on $2 trillion a year, and you find out a $600 billion, I mean, and if it was a big deal, the Fed would print it tonight and they could buy the $600 billion worth of gold tomorrow, right? Like, I'm not saying it's not a big deal. What I'm saying is, if you think it's a big deal, I don't know what movie you've been watching for the last 25 years, because in terms of the balance sheet, like if we find out a $600 billion asset is missing versus $37 trillion in debt, I mean, on a financial basis, it makes no difference.
Yeah, in reality, it would be a bigger blow to the psyche of government and American trust, more so than the actual financial blow.
100%. And I, like, that shouldn't comfort you either, right? Like that's kind of a weird testament to where we're at, or a weird testament to where we're at. But yeah, and I wish it did. I wish that we would say, of course the gold is there, but if it's not, it would really cause some serious damage. Why do I wish that was the case? Because that would say that our government and our country were in a much different place. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. That we were more virginal, that we were more innocent, that we were more, that we were less used to it. I mean, you're at a place now where it's like, shoot, last year we find out that UFOs exist. We're about ready to find out who really shot Kennedy. And now all of a sudden we're going to find out no golds in, Fort Knox. It's sort of like, shoot, man, hit me again,
Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer, Bulwark Capital. If people want to reach out to you, what do they do?
Go to bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com, knowyourriskradio.com. Pretty easy to find. Doing our updates every single day. Do about a 25-30 minute update in our hour to hour and a half show once a week. And so just Google Know Your Risk Radio, bulwarkcapitalmanagement.com. Not too hard to find, man.
Right on, brother. Good talking to you. We'll do it again next week.
All right, sounds good, pal. Thanks for having me.
Investment advisory services offered through Trek Financial LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions expressed in this program are for general informational purposes only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual or on any specific security. Any references to performance of securities are thought to be materially accurate, and actual performance may differ. Investments involve risk and are not guaranteed. Past performance doesn't guarantee future results. Trek 24308.